am joined by Alejaibra. He is a love guru and the head healing facilitator at the Madison House in Washington, D.C. Alejaibra, welcome. Thank you for joining me. And can you just introduce yourself to our audience?
Peace, love, and light, everybody. Again, my name is Alejaibra Badu, and I am just this love bot, this free being that roams the world, reminding people that they are love, and that it's important for them to choose themselves and return back to the love within inside themselves. Know a whole lot of things that will get you right, get you healed, but I do it in a fun way. So this ain't gonna be deep, and we won't be crying all day, but we're gonna just face some stuff that we hid under the mattress, and we're gonna release it, just so therefore we can return back to our divine self.
I love that. My friends know this, and I've written about it quite a bit, but I consider myself a lover. So I am definitely, with the message of love. What are some of the ways that you and your work at the Madison House remind people that they are love and get them to return to their divine selves?
Folks, especially as we begin to get big, as we begin to get grown, as we think we're responsible, we begin to sacrifice ourselves for everyone else, whether it's that career, whether it's that relationship, whether it's that the opinion of others. And as a result, self-love and the love of ourselves is actually not worth it. So we actually began to compromise our self-worth for the benefit of, or the gain of someone else's self-worth. So it's just, in my practice, it's just important to pause people long enough for them to see themselves, pause people long enough for them to feel themselves. And by doing that, they will actually reawaken the memory of what it was like to be themselves in the first place. And the first time they fell in love with themselves.
What brought you to identifying as a love guru and then putting that into your practice?
Goodness, my past or my history was a history of abuse. It was a history of not being loved. It was a history of playing games with love. Love was something that you could use against someone and you could easily take away. And it wasn't until my daughter, her name is Madison actually, it wasn't until my daughter was born 14 years ago when I realized that the whole world has been punking me my whole life. That this child was born and I could see everything that could ever happen in their life, and the feeling of love was constant. And from her birth, I desired to know what love was more, and not this thing that my parents gave me, not this thing that I was trying to get from other people, but what was true love and endless love and constant love. So shout out to my daughter Madison, because if she wasn't born, I would still be head fuckboy in the streets, and still lost.
Right. So you talked about, facing yourself and really taking time to just deal with you. And right now, given that we're dealing with COVID-19, the stay-at-home orders, quarantine, whatever words people want to use to describe this imposed solitude.
Yes.
So as people are encountering themselves and facing themselves, what should they be thinking about?
Honestly, it's more so about what they should be letting go. Keep in mind that Black and brown people for hundreds of years, they were stolen and they was forced to labor. So for hundreds of years, to be idle felt like a curse. To sit down and do nothing felt like a curse. So now that we're actually forced to be in the house, it feels like a curse for many people. They're looking for forms of escapism. I can do everything else but face myself. I can do everything else but rest with myself. I can do everything else but speak with myself. So right now it's more so of identifying the root cause of those situations. So therefore you can begin to clip the root. You can begin to unpack it and know that, again, I tie this back down to self-worth, because the reason why you avoid something is because you don't feel like something is worth it. And that same something could be yourself. So this is a time for you to unapologetically get ugly, unapologetically not know the answers, and be okay not knowing the answers. Cry, wipe your face, and cry all over again. Scream, but it's a perfect time to literally give yourself permission to unravel. because the facade of having to keep up with the appearances, to keep up with the Joneses, or to act like everything is okay and that we're supersonic strong is a myth. And right now it is coming to a head. So it's okay to be in the house and begin to ask yourself what matters to you. You know, right now people don't have anywhere to go. For the first time, people don't have anyone to answer to, or to clock in at a certain time, or to report to. So now that you have to report to yourself, what is something that you've been meaning to tell yourself that you just may have been too busy to listen to? You know, what areas do you wish to forgive yourself? What pressures do you wish to get off your back? You know, so you can stop being a burden for yourself. You know, so right now I say face everything that is a contradiction to your ability to rest.
Mm. Face everything that is a contradiction to your ability to rest. I
Yes.
love that. I love how simple that is. I think when we talk about healing, if you're not in it, like I have a psychology background, you have your experience and your practice at the Madison House. But if you are outside of those realms, or you don't practice religion or anything like that, it can be difficult to think about healing and self-work and self-worth. It's difficult to think about those in tangible terms, but I love how simple and straightforward you've made it. Like, really, what is in the way of you getting your rest, like your sense of peace?
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So getting back to the Madison House and what you've built there and what you're continuing to build there, what should the average person know about your practice, or know, or what would they be surprised to know if they walk through the doors of the Madison House?
They will be surprised to feel more than just know. But I always say that the Madison House is a home for lost souls that have not felt at home for generations, for lifetimes. That sometimes we can be born in this body and we can even encounter the world but not feel at home. You know, so the very first thing that people experience when they enter the Madison House is an exhale. I mean, come on now, folks been waiting to exhale. They got movies and books about it. Folks probably holding their breath right now watching this freaking video. You know, so the fact that you can walk into a place and the first thing the place encourages you to do is to freaking let go, and that you feel at home, you feel familiar, you feel seen.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so the Madison House is just this interesting space. Our mantra is love lights its own path, is never gets lost on its way home. And at the Madison House, you're always home. You're always in a place of love. You know, so it's literally a space, a stop. It's water. When you lost your way, you need a hydration. It's food. It's a map. But most importantly, it gives you just permission to let go
Yeah.
and be. And not have to be the strong one. I don't know if anyone out there suffer from strong person disease, or like I call it, I say I have to check my independent Black man and my independent Black woman, because we
Right.
be over here on some supersonic independence. And that independence also is a fast track path to isolation,
Hmm.
to actually abandonment, because we're so independent that we actually can't even ask for what we need, or we feel the fact that we have needs in the first place is a sign of weakness. You
Mm.
know, so we're just a good bath where we're gonna wash away all those myths and give you permission to choose what makes sense for you, and not what makes sense based off the person who told it to you.
Right. Huh. Um, yeah, you laying a lot on me. Like, this is supposed to be like, we're gonna have this conversation. It's gonna be a tool for people. And here I am in my trunk unpacking right now. Like, man, what do I have to uncover? What has someone told me? What am I holding on to? We don't have to go in deep on this, but I am currently thinking about, when you face yourself, then how do you prevent that from becoming isolation? Or, like, where's the line between facing yourself and solitude, and then facing yourself, and then solitude becoming isolation. Like where are the lines? What does that look like? How can we do that in a healthy way if we're doing it on our own?
Yeah, so I want to say that it's ugly. I want to say that first and foremost that a lot of times people feel like when they reach spiritual enlightenment, or when they finally get to a place of reaching themselves, it's gonna be bubbles and butterflies and all these beautiful things that are magnificent. But to be really really honest with you, it gets ugly. You're facing yourself when you haven't faced yourself before. And I share with this with people all the time. It's not about my experiences in life. It's not about what people done to me in life. It's about my cosign agreement. It's about how I repeated those mantras as though it was the truth, and I became my own overseer with a smile on my face. But I was the one that held myself in bondage. So it's a term that we use called shadow work. And shadow work is literally facing the shadows, facing the dark, facing the ugly, facing the things that just scare the crap out of you. And to face yourself is to face your shadows. I was sharing with a group of people last year. I was speaking out of town, and I let them know what happens if you. I said that. How's the story go? Like I literally found myself in the face of hell. And when the devil finally turned around to look at me, it was me looking at me.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to look at the devil, forgive the devil, and release the devil, because the devil was never a devil at all. It was just a broken Black boy who did not know how to forgive himself. So it can be an ugly process. Again, I don't think we're truly taught how to love. I don't think we're truly taught how to accept. I don't think we're truly taught how to appreciate, but we're taught that if we give this attribute, then we can gain this from an individual. So then we get used to giving this attribute for the gain of this from the individual, thinking that whatever we're gaining is actually nutrients, when it could be some GMO substance for our actual being.
Right.
And that's the programming from being a little child, from being an adolescent, from being an awkward teen, to being an adult who think they got it.
Right.
It's just all these sacrifices that are putting you further and further away from yourself, or it's these false medals and medallions that you have to win to actually have validation for the self that don't even seem to exist in the first place. So what happens when you face the lie again? What happens when you convince yourself that you want to build this brand, or you want to be the CEO of a company, and you get there and you realize you're not whole? I had a client that I was speaking to in December, and she was breaking down because she had to release anger, and she was mad at her mother. She said, "Mom, I went to school like you told me to. I got the degree like you told me to. I married that man like you told me to. I had the children like you told me to. I even got the house like you told me to. Now I'm here with all this stuff, and I don't even have me. And none of this stuff made me happy. You told me that if I do everything you tell me to do, then it will guarantee my happiness and my success in life. And I did it, and I'm further away from myself than I ever been." So when you begin to face those things, and admit that it don't feel good, admit that it's ugly, and admit that you don't know. Goodness. And admit that I don't give myself responsibility to heal myself for stuff that I don't even know what it is. So I'm kind of like a little spoiled brat when it comes to spirituality, or when it comes to self-help, or when it comes to the laws of the universe. I'm looking around like this, y'all know I got these isms. Y'all know I collected this baggage. If you leave me the responsibility of having to unpack this myself, my overthinking behind is just gonna overthink some more, and I ain't gonna ever get out of this. So how about you release it and take it away? How about I confess that I can't handle this no more. I can't take this no more. And as a result, you relieve me of this. But if I'm seeking the responsibility to having to unpack everything that has happened since June 4th, 1983, I'll be stuck for a minute trying to unpack everything that has happened since June 4th, 1983. So even releasing yourself the pressure of having to save yourself, but give yourself permission to finally breathe, thin, and feel for yourself. And by doing that, the transformation happens automatically. But the transformation doesn't happen when you assign yourself countless tasks to get there. Okay, when I do this and finally I'll be free. Come on, we got a lot of those things. When I finally achieve this and I finally be free. Oh, well, I need to do these 3 more books and throw out these 3 more podcasts, and then I'll finally have a freer version of myself. Come on. Even the fact that we're told that healing, transformation can't be right now, but it has to be something you plan for in the future, when the future already brings us anxiety. So it's already anxiety associated with being your free self in the future, and the impossibility of actually being able to be your free self right now. So unpacking those things, yeah.
You touched on, having the self-help and being able to access podcasts. And we are in an age where all types of healing are at our fingertips, and everybody it seems like, at least on social media, that people fall into 2 camps. Either they are the healing guru, or they are on the journey searching for the healing guru. And there's so many paths to take. I first want you to tell me, or explain to me, if someone is in search of healing, where should they start? Aside from starting with self, let's say they want extra support. Like, what is the next step after that? How do you know what form of healing is right for you? And by healing, I'm going to also include like traditional religion and therapy. And like, how do you know which form is right?
I always say, find a path that's least restrictive, because we have enough restrictions and we have enough rules and we have enough things saying that's countering our natural ability from the beginning. So find a path that's least restrictive, that when you're being your honest self and saying that I went through this or I'm going through this, where judgment is not the first thing that you receive in return. Where you're not looked at as though your inability to grasp a concept of self is a foreign thing and that you're just the alien. Also, acts. I'm a firm, I talk out loud. You know what I mean? I swear I got some spiritual parents and they just listen to me everywhere. So I'd be like, yo, God, bring me the teacher. Bring me the guide. And don't be codependent on the source that you find. Because even that will have an expiration date. Even that will be like, you got all you can get from this source. Now it's time to journey on. And when it's time for you to journey on, don't be so codependent on a teacher that you're afraid to walk by yourself, to find the next teacher, to be the next teacher, So it's, go to a place that resonates for you. And I say this big time. In religion, they talk about be aware of false prophets. So I'm going to bring that to spirituality. Be aware of false prophets. There are a lot of people who are showing up in a healing capacity, who have tons of things to say to other people about how they should heal. And a lot of those things come from a place of ego. A lot of those things come from a place of pain. Keep in mind too that healers have a savior complex. And you have a savior complex and you're not truly healing, but you think that your responsibility is to heal. So a lot of people are holding space for healing because they actually have not held space for themselves to heal. And they feel like their validation is tied to how many people they can guide somewhere or how many people they can get to serve them. So make sure that you're a healer. Make sure your source ain't out there doing it for freaking likes. So if the Instagram went away, they're still showing up in a pure way. Right. Discernment. That's something I learned from a Christian. I was a pastor once upon a time ago in life, but 19, I was a whole pastor. This life that I lived has been a long one, but make sure that you have discernment. Okay, we're not going to say discernment. We're going to use another word called intuition. Yeah. So does your spirit feel good in the presence of the person that you're supposed to be learning from? Mm-hmm. Or do you find yourself fighting your spirit just to try to believe in what they're saying? Because if you're fighting yourself, then how well are you going to be in that space? Yeah. Shop around. Shoppers, we like to shop anyway. We like to try things on and take it back.
Right.
So shop around. Go listen and see what resonates.
Yeah.
Um, who works for me might not be the person that works for you. You know, I'm a firm believer that everybody in this, that there are certain people that people are meant to learn from, and there's certain people that people are not meant to learn from. So just because my friends can learn from a certain person and that person makes me cringe, doesn't mean that person is bad. It just means that person has nothing for me, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So make sure that you're in a space that has something for you. And make sure whatever that something is not tied to your ego. So make sure that something is not a pacifier because you're only comfortable with this level. So they're gonna keep you at that level. You know, don't dumb yourself down, or also don't sit under someone else who's confident and dumb you down either.
Right. I am so intrigued. You did give us a little backstory on your journey and how you got to being a love guru and your work at the Madison House. But I am really interested in this journey from traditional religion as a pastor at 19 to where you are now. And the question is just coming from the fact that we often see these two things promoted in opposition of each other. Like we get, like when Harry Potter was the rage when I was a kid, it was, this is, some churches were against it. Like this is teaching kids devil worship and wizardry. And then like my mom is not into the zodiac thing because she's a religious person, and and then some people use healing crystals, and then they, it's just everyone, it seems like those two things are being presented as an opposition to each other. But I'd like to just hear from you, like how that went for you and what you picked up along the way.
Um, so my path within itself has been a strange one. I find myself someone who's been fighting my whole life. Um, so I have 11 initiations. So that means there's 11 different spiritual systems. There's 11 different religious systems that I have permission to speak at. From Judaism to Islam to Christianity. Like I am trained, I am taught. If I go there right now, they will look at me as some type of bishop, some type of someone, just because of my years of training. But the interesting part was that every time that I was in these congregations, every time that I was there, I felt the oppression and I felt the restriction.
Mm.
I remember my first sermon was on cuss words. And this is my I was a rebellious little pastor, but it was on curse words. It was like, listen, here we are, and you're looking at me as your leader, but I still use certain words, and the reason why I'm using those words because some of them I think they sound cute coming off my mouth. So how can we support each other in the midst of this? Like it was really important for me to let people know that I have flaws, that I am healing. I'm not healed. I don't even proclaim to be healed, HEALED, right now, because the only destination to be healed is death. But while I'm alive, I'm going to be healing for the rest of my life. But if I'm healed, then I done found some type of supersonic destination that ain't real. Right. So for me, it was an interesting thing because religion was always something that was suffocating. And it was always something that the whole general body did not agree on one accord. So you might have the pastor in the pulpit, you might even have the singers, you might have the usher board, you have the members in the audience. And if you ask them the question about this religion, these teachings, and what they're supposed to be gaining, every answer will be different. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't truly agape love. It was, I'm going to love you until you do something that makes me uncomfortable. And then I'm going to turn my fear into judgment in your name. And then I'm going to cover it up in Jesus' name. To make it seem more valid because so it was a very interesting thing. But I had my teacher, my bishop, because again, I used to go to him faithfully, be like, why am I here? Yeah. I do these things. I still believe in these things. Why am I here? And he was very encouraging. He actually was able to allow me to translate the Bible in a way that wasn't to imprison me. Um, yeah. So it was just an interesting thing because I couldn't rest in Christianity because Christianity didn't have a space for humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And how can I rest in something that's supposed to be for the global good of all when it ostracizes half of the people of the world? You
Mm-hmm.
know, and that was just my, shout out to me and my experience. That was just my experience and the reason why I couldn't rest there. But I couldn't be comfortable believing something that also bred fear,
Mm-hmm.
and used fear as a weapon, to put me in my place,
Yeah.
you know? Um, so it was a contradiction. How can love be here?
Right.
Where is the love? And why is the love? Again, remember, before my daughter was born, love was something that could be given and be taken away. Even in religious circles, I'm great until you learn about my sexuality. I'm great until you learn that I'm leaving the church soon to join a band and travel the world. Now you're comfortable in condemning me. Now you feel empowered. You are now in your God complex and are now condemning me for something that you fear. Or sometimes it's because I'm doing something that you want to do that you could never do, because of your own isms. And
Mm-hmm.
now that I'm doing it, then it's better to have you stay at the bottom with me than actually try. Because if you try, then I have to face within myself that I never tried. So it's easier just to keep every dead body down here.
Right.
And I don't like bondage. I don't like bondage. I just don't like bondage. So that was a place that was it was a place that was a contradiction. Remember that? Remember earlier we talked about face those things that are contradiction. So it was one of those things I had to ask. Like, yes, I love this. Yes, I love how I show up. But there's a contradiction to who I am, and how can these things coexist at the same time? So I sought freedom, and in that freedom, I had to begin to take off all the hats and all the trainings that I ever received to figure out what matters to me. And what mattered to me was simply being. Jesus didn't follow a religion. you know I love the homie Jesus, to be very honest with you, because Jesus walked.
Right.
So that means Jesus didn't even tolerate no mess. He walked. Oh, y'all ain't listening to me? I'm gonna keep walking over here. I don't care if you my mom or my daddy, whoever, I'm gonna keep walking because this is what I feel to be truth. This is the passion in my heart. And I was sent down here to live my truth and to show people what passion in the heart is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have to argue to do so. Jesus also hung out in the hood with the pimps and the prostitutes and the drunks. Yo, show me a Christian right now that's hanging out in the hood with the pimps and the prostitutes and the drunks, uh, or that's not being condemned, so it was just an interesting space. So my thing is I don't care what anyone's belief is. Even in my teachings, it's not about religion. I teach people the divine essence of self. Whatever religion, whatever tool, whatever belief you have is yours. I'm just here to awaken you up to the divine essence of self, so therefore your tools will be even more powerful than what your restrictions are. But I encourage you, if what you believe is causing fear and anxiety, I encourage you to question what it is that you believe,
Mm.
or the reason why you're still there in the first place. And that was just me. I had a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had a lot of questions, and I just felt that who I was naturally wasn't supported in the environment that I was in. And that the reason why the people loved me was because I was great at delivering a word that they wasn't even sure if they would actually live by, but they were okay with me being the tool, the source to depend on, without them actually ever being the tool, the source to depend on themselves.
Mm.
And even that codependency was scary. Like, I don't want minions.
Right.
It's nah. Like, it's more effective if we're all having a belief system and we're all accomplishing that belief system. So therefore, we're all flourishing, not even manifesting, but we're flourishing as ourselves. Because manifestation still requires the man, and that can trigger the man and the responsibility to defest. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
But if we're flourishing, that means we're confident in who we and we're confident in ourselves. This is something I think about, right? So Nobody has to tell me that I'm a Black man. Sometimes I even forget that I'm a Black man until I'm in a space and it's just like, oh yeah, I gotta check the box or we gotta have the conversation. So why cannot my connection to spirit, why cannot my connection to the universe be the same thing without someone having to tell me that I'm connected? You know, so the same way that I don't have to remind myself that I'm Black, why do I have to remind myself that I'm connected to a greater universe? You know, why can't it be the natural essence of who I am? You know, so I just dare to ask questions. And I dare to, and again, not to other people, but to myself, so I can begin to unpack what I've been taught, what I feel, and then rest in the place that resonates.
So you've asked the questions and you've grown from Christian or from well, I don't want to say you don't practice Christianity. Do you practice Christianity? Right. So I
I
don't want
still
to
go to
say
church.
that. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess the work, the essence of your work is not faith-based. It's not based in Christianity because you've asked those questions. Is your practice still evolving? Like, do you still continue to ask questions and tweak the way that you do your work at the Madison House?
Yeah. Yeah. I ask questions because even the Madison House, I love it. We just turned 5 years April. Goodness. So happy birthday. We're fresh in our 5 years, you know. But a lot of so when I created the Madison House, as beautiful as it was and as many people as it was able to heal, it was also a wound, an open wound made public, that I thought if I did certain things that I would be able to patch that wound. You know, and I realized that the ways that I was showing up, the ways that I wasn't honoring myself or creating boundaries for myself because I was looking at everyone as if, you know, it was just a lot of different things that I was doing that wasn't balanced. So I had to constantly rip the paper up, shut doors down, you know. I don't provide healing work if I'm not in a place of balance. You know, so I took 3 years off from coaching. I just started coaching again this year, you know, as a master life coach. But I took 3 years off of coaching. Why? Because I don't want to hear your shit right now. Because I'm still unpacking my shit and laying down collecting your shit every day is just too much for me. Because now I forgot who the heck I am. Now I thought I was back in sit your emotion here and do it there, you know. So in my practice, it's important for me to embody the truth of the essence of who I am and not just prescribe to you something that I didn't have the will to do myself. You know, so there was a lot of unveiling because again, in Christianity or in my other practices, I won't even just say Christianity, but in my other practices, you're told to show up, to deny your emotions, to deny your human, to deny your flaw, and to pretend that you have all the answers. Well, what happens when I don't? What happens when I don't even trust the answers that's been provided for me? And now I have to question the reality of everything that I've learned. And you're still looking at me as some guru, as some healer, as some master, as, you know, nah, Slim. You know, so that was a interesting thing for me because you're also told that if you don't keep showing up for the people, then how are you going to be successful? You know, and we're also told that you have to fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
So just put a smile on. Don't everybody got to know that you fucked up in the inside. You got some words to say, so just share those words. Nah, I'm broken right now, and I'm questioning everything that I've ever been told right now, and this is big.
Yeah.
I need someone to hold space for me. You know, so it's that was just an interesting practice and an interesting revelation. You know, to not seek perfection, in the process. And to not, I shut down my doors many times too, because I've always would grow these large followings of people who were great at looking at me as being the solution and the source. But all I'm saying is that I got these tools. These are the tools that I perfected. These are the tools that allowed me to get to freedom. But I need you to be able to tap into yourself and share tools. So there's a whole system of intelligence that's caught up in cult classic, that is going to be able to free generations.
Mm-hmm.
But yet cult classic is just dependent on my teachers of trying to regurgitate everything that I'm saying. And how the heck we gonna get the freedom? Like, I got my shits. I don't need you to be trying to whoop them out like I whip them out. Whip yours out.
Right.
Like, so I can be like, word, cool. Like, we're gonna put this together and get there. But a lot of times people are okay mimicking, repeating, and trying to be what I am. And that's not what I'm here for. I need you to be the best of who you are, because being the best of who you are is also going to heal me. I don't need to recreate many systems of me out there.
Yes. This is really resonating for me as a content creator, as I think you get some of the similar feelings, like having something to say, but not always not being in the best place to say it, but saying it anyway, because you have a following, or you have sponsors that you need to be satisfied. They need to have views. They need to have the traffic. So I definitely get that. And also feeling like the message is oversaturated. Like there are so many insert popular content creators out there. There's so many types of the same content being regurgitated, and just taking time to really find what your version is and what your brand is, and honoring that and valuing that. So I definitely, like, I see that. I definitely, that journey, your journey resonates with me. So yeah, I wasn't expecting that one, the world of like spirituality and marketing, to have that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in doing my research and preparing for this conversation, I saw that you did a cannabis event. Like, it was cannabis based. Can you talk to me about that? Like, what happened there?
I will. So just to let you know, goodness, I guess I got a lot of shit to share. So I am a priest of cannabis, and 4 days after my birth is when I was initiated into the cannabis system. So being someone who is able to communicate with the plant medicine, and who's able to speak to the spirit of the...
Can we back up a little bit? So what is a cannabis priest? And then what do you mean by initiation?
Goodness, this life I've lived. So a cannabis priest is just simply someone who has access to, I'm up here looking for some cannabis. I was about to try to bring it to the camera, but they have access to heal, communicate with the plant. Okay. So I can actually spend time with the plant and teach you how to connect to every astral body you ever had. And it was something that 4 days after my birth, I had some folks who were there who realized the energies that was me. So I was born in a really weird way. I don't know if you ever heard about the children that have a veil over their face, but I was born with a veil over my face. I was also born with 11 fingers. So I had a lot of the signs or the markings of a person who had access to the other side. I came out extra woke, Yeah. So I began my trainings then. I began my trainings with different shamans, with different medicine women and men to prepare me for what this journey of life would be. About 4 years ago, I started a class called Herbal Ascension. Herbal Ascension was teaching people how to use cannabis and to heal their body, to heal their chakras, and to communicate with the heavens or with the spirit realm or with their higher self. And from there, I began to teach people how to do that, how to actually, instead of seeking a joint for escapism, how can we actually build that relationship? Keep in mind that cannabis is a feminine plant. Mm-hmm. So with things that are feminine requires appreciation, because if you keep coming towards something that's feminine with the need to take, then one day that feminine thing will slip you a Mickey. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be knocked all the way out, because it was just like, not today, so how do you appreciate it? So there's I would teach people how to communicate to their joints as they're preparing them. Yeah. How to infuse their energy with the energy of the cannabis plant. A few minutes after actually embracing cannabis, your frequencies merge. You know, so are you going to be on a higher elevated plane, or are you going to be on a lower plane? You
Okay.
know,
So clarify your frequency with the joint, or the frequency with everyone who you're partaking with.
I love you on that one. Both. You
Okay.
know, so I always tell people too, don't be in a cipher with an anxious MFer. You know, because you know sometimes you see a person yanks out a joint, and then everybody be like itching. You know, and think about what's going on with you right now in life.
Yeah.
Can you afford to take on that anxious energy from all those nigglets that's in the cipher who don't even know what to do with anything, and they're running, they're escaping? Then imagine what you're consuming yourself. Imagine what you're inhaling yourself. So everybody is not worthy to embrace your J with you. You know, do a mental health check-in real quick. You know, ask a few supporting questions really quick. You know, because it's powerful. Again, you can set an intention. So I set the intention that as I embrace this beautiful plant medicine, that I will have the answers that I need to launch whatever I need to launch today, that I will be able to be productive at work, that I won't cuss anyone out. You know, so you can actually set an intention, so therefore you're just not abusing the plant medicine by itself. You know, so there's so many things wrapped up into how to use cannabis the sacred way. Again, if you go into the Bible, there's Jesus went into a temple where they burned cannabis, smoked it out, and then rubbed their bodies with sacred oil that had cannabis on it too, in order to actually talk and be present with the guys in heaven. You know, so even realizing that from a place of Christianity, it was always something that was meant to be sacred. You know, the beautiful Rastafarians who would read the Bible as they're puffing, and that was able to give them clarity on the messages of the word. The Dogons of West Africa, there's a tribe of folks in West Africa, Northwest Africa, called the Dogons, and they were able to communicate, spend time with cannabis, and to actually communicate with a system of stars that was outside of this solar system. And they were able to document how the orbit of those stars were, the sounds that they made, way before what you call those things, those telescopes came out. It wasn't until about 50 so years ago where scientists was able to confirm the existence of what they were talking about. And that's actually Series B is actually where the alien plant cannabis actually derived from. Okay. You know, so there's so much more that can happen when you're actually present with plant medicine and you're not escaping with plant medicine. You know, so it's a sacred tool to use to communicate with yourself, with your body, with your spirit. So therefore you can overcome your depression. You can overcome your anxiety. You can overcome the delusion of this false sense of self we have in the first place.
Right. So,
yeah.
I've not thought about using cannabis medically or in a sacred sense. It's just there for me in this present moment in my life. Would you suggest using the same kind of the lenses that you already gave us in this conversation? So like, does this sit right with me? Does this feel good? Is this bondage? And when we think about, for people who are interested in using cannabis for sacred practice.
Yeah, honestly, it's about asking yourself what you need. You know, I ain't against anybody's way of going to cannabis, because sometimes we go to things without actually knowing the true worth of what it is that we're going to. But that moment of pausing, that moment of being like, right now, the world has went to shits. I'm in this house tripping. Oh, snap, I got this weed. Okay, so before I just jump to it, let me pause for a second and think about what I need. I need this anxiety that keeps me up all night to go away. I need this pressure I'm giving myself to launch 3 businesses instead of taking 3 naps to go away. You know, so I don't know what I need in this moment, but I'm going to relax myself. I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to roll this joint. and I'm going to breathe. Again, you're I don't say I smoke weed, but I kiss and breathe weed. So I'm it's an intimate relationship,
Right.
you know. So even changing the language, but it's just pausing and redirecting something, because again, for some of us, we know what it's like to be the escapism for other people.
Yeah.
So think about how that's been, and when that person also no longer needed the escapism, it was okay to leave your butt behind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so is that what I wish to do with this planet?
Yeah.
You know?
A lot of people, you just triggered something for me that, you know, with the, again, circling back to our current conditions, the quarantine, stay at home orders, a lot of people are at home escaping either through a person, a substance, TV, internet, whatever. How do you know as a person if you are someone's escape? If someone's escaping in you, like what are some indicators?
I think you know. And no shade. I don't think there's a formal model, but I feel like back to that the discernment, back to that intuition, um, back to histories of toxic relationships. You know when someone's using you, when you actually try to ask them a question, or you actually try to connect on a deeper level, but they politely reiterate that you're only here for this reason. You know, that they could care less about your IQ or your mental capacity, but right now I need you just to transmute this energy for me. And I say that big time too, because this quarantine has also triggered people's escapism via sex.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that before the quarantine, people was already escaping via sex. You know, somebody can get a hug, but will barter a hug for a whole situation, because they feel like if I ask for a hug, I will be denied, but I can give you this, and at least I think I'm going to be touched.
Yeah.
You know, so right now, I've been super celibate during this quarantine, because there's demons and devils and all kinds of low vibrational spirits running around looking for someone else to inject. You know, so right now, with whatever your mental health is, right now, whatever your emotional capacity is, do you have space, room to take on anyone else's shit? Or are you in position to break a habit that you just formed out of, this is just what we do when we get to this feeling in this body?
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like you know. Like, in terms of just being honest with yourself, you know what you're doing. You know the child that be reaching, and they be looking at their mama, but they still be reaching. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, just be honest with yourself if you're still okay showing up in this way. If you're still okay allowing other people to show up in that way for you. It's escapism, you know, so you can identify when you're escaping from certain things, you know, but I think it's clear. Yeah. I think it's clear. I mean, I've done deal with enough people who ain't really like me, but think I'm gonna come up based on whatever they need me to come up on, and I was agreeing to be a come up because at least I got a partner.
Right.
At least I got someone to talk to. At least I even got a friend, and we sometimes even have those friends who are great at taking from us, but never replenishing us. But because we feel like that after being tired for a week, we found a magical way to replenish ourselves, then we keep going back to that same space that drains us. Yeah. You know? So right now, just be honest, even with your habits. Are they your habits? If they are your habits, are they your habits because someone gave them to you or convinced you to actually live this way? Are they your habits because you might not have learned how to actually speak up for yourself? Are they your habits for what? Like, what is the root of this? Whose roots are they? You know, sometimes you might got somebody else's roots growing in your garden. You might need to pluck those out. You know, but it's a time just to be honest with yourself on why I do this.
Yeah.
And even in being honest with yourself, you might spend another month on that same low vibrational frequency before you release yourself of it. But at least you're giving yourself permission to identify what it is. So therefore, it now has permission to escape itself.
Mm.
But don't even look in terms of all of this, even your self-awareness to be a quick fix. Oh my goodness, I now realize why I mess with the wrong type of people. That don't mean that tomorrow you're going to forever mess with the right people.
Right.
Now you just identify the pattern. You can now identify them when they show up. But don't give yourself, again, pressure to be perfect.
Mm.
You know, because again, even in this healing process, we seek perfection and we have to act like everything is good and instant. Nah, Slim, right now ain't shit good. And I'm actually tired of you trying to tell me to say those affirmations. Fuck those affirmations right now. I need permission to be angry. I need permission to be mad. I need permission to be sad. Because if I don't give myself permission to do those things, then how can I birth a new emotion if I'm only suppressing the emotions that I have right now? Then how can I give permission for anything else to grow if I don't even give permission for what is to be?
Say that. How can I give myself permission to grow when I can't even give myself permission to be? Oh my gosh. Man.
Yeah.
Oh man. Like I knew this was going to be a good conversation, but I didn't know how good, you know, like I didn't know it was going to be good, like right here good. I was expecting like regular good, like, oh, he's interesting, like cool. This is good. Soul food good.
I'm honestly just happy that you agreed to meet with me because I've been a fan of your brand for a while. I thought you were just this cool person that I was just like, and I'm a really shy person, so I can sometimes just be a fan from the background forever before I open my mouth and be like, wait, I can touch that person. Like I can speak to that person. You know, so I had no idea what we could do together. I was just like, yo, hey, if you're ever down, what's up, you know? Because I just, a lot of times in how I show up, people try to compartmentalize that or think that I only can reach or speak or show up in certain ways, that I'm this super subtle healer. And again, I do got credentials out the woohoo, but I don't have to wear my credentials on my neck. You know, I'm just this free bot in the world doing everything daily to make sure that I maintain my freedom.
Yeah.
You know, and I just felt that there are other people who just need to hear basic life sense. And by hearing basic life sense, they can begin to activate, unlock whatever it is that they've been stuck on themselves, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a crossroad. You know, you speak about the crossroad, you get to a crossroad and you either have to go straight, you have to make a left, you have to make a right.
Right.
So I'm a firm believer at sometimes even creating your own path. But I realized that there's a great metropolitan city that's been built at the crossroad for the people who arrived to the crossroad, couldn't make a decision, sat down and did nothing. And since so many people came and sat down and did nothing, now they think they live in a perfect metropolitan city of people who have the inability to choose, think for themselves. And because more people joined them, they're comfortable in that place of not being able to choose. At least now they have company.
Right.
You know, so I figured if I can provide someone a plan to be like, yo, this crossroad was never my home.
Yeah.
You know, and whether I go left or whether I go right, I must do something, you know?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Before we shift and we get out of here, I'm big on leaving people with like a takeaway or a tool or something they can use. I'm gonna let you freestyle it, but I know that a lot of people are watching the news and they are feeling anxious, or they're not watching the news and they're just at home with their devices of escapism, and you know they might be encountering loneliness for the first time or a new type of loneliness in a different way because of everything that's going on. Can you lead us in some sort of practice or meditation that can help people deal with either of those issues?
Yes. I honestly would like to lead people into some breath work, just to give people permission to be breathing throughout this time, to return to their breath throughout this time. So one of the breath techniques I will introduce in this moment is called a de-stressing breath technique. And this is just something that you can do to calm some of the anxieties and some of the fears that you find yourself inheriting during this time. I'm gonna say inherited. It might not be yours, but sometimes we get some inheritance that we don't want, you know. So the first thing, the de-stressing breath technique just requires you to rest in any comfortable position. So whether you're laying down, whether you're sitting up, and simply what you're gonna do is you're gonna breathe in through your nose, and you're going to pause for 5 seconds. And then once you pause for 5 seconds, you're going to push that breath out. So not, well, you're gonna want to hear that exhale. And once that exhale happens, we're going to again pause for 5 seconds and then repeat. So breathe it in through our nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and breathing in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale. And this process you can also visualize as you're breathing in the things that you want, and as you exhale, imagine yourself pushing out all the things you don't want. So you find yourself uncomfortable in your belly. If you find yourself uncomfortable in your thoughts, see those things going away. Breathing in confidence and holding it for 5 seconds. And then exhaling worry, exhaling doubt. During this time too, I also encourage people to do movement meditations. And I say movement meditations because we already are inside our homes. So to have people sit down in a position that they're not even sure how to sit down in, to be still for an infinite amount of time, to receive something when there are all kinds of thoughts going through their mind, can be triggering by itself.
Right.
But did you know that you can dance and move your body, and that's meditation?
I did,
that
I'm part of the mainstream, so we get marketed one kind of meditation, or maybe two. So yeah, you're gonna have to show me.
We can do that. But yeah, so literally, and that's a good thing too, because with movement meditation, it gives you permission to even feel within your body. So to stand up and reach up. So imagine yourself reaching into the stars and pulling down everything that you need, the support that you need, the love that you need, the food that you need, the money that you need, and then pull it into your body.
Yeah.
And then allow it to move through your body and out to your toes. And then with your feet, you can begin to plant them down. And as you're planting your feet into the ground, picture your roots growing firmer. Picture light shooting out of the soles of your feet, going into the soil to reactivate the roots that you thought you lost. To call on the people again. This is a perfect time for ancestral healing, for ancestral communication. So think about the folks in your family who are not here now, but they can provide you with inspiration on how to survive this. Because just because they lost their body does not mean they lost their soul. So are we calling on the greats that came before now, who have experienced things like this,
right,
to actually give us a word of wisdom? When we talk about abandonment, a lot of that is ancestral healing too, because we have family members who were taken, who were stolen. So now I can let you know that you're safe. And as you're letting them know that they're safe, then you are releasing that anxiety that you inherited yourself. you know? So there's a lot of things you can do in this moment to just restore yourself back to you. Um, and to make sure that what you're feeling is yours.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, sometimes we receive feelings through our body that's an indicator of what needs to be released, not what needs to be held on to or talked about. Don't talk about yourself because you got anxiety. Oh, I got anxiety. I'm always had this anxiety. No. Where is this coming from?
Mm.
Why is it here? Whose is it? The whole world is at shits right now. Are you feeling your neighbor having a fit? Do you need to call your mama and check on her because this anxiety you feeling is hers?
Mm.
You know, but give shit back. We are emotional hoarders.
Right.
This is not mine. This isn't how I wish to feel. How about we be honest? You know, this isn't how I wish to feel. I release this feeling. I don't desire to feel this anymore. I return this feeling back to the source. I return this feeling to the sky to be cleansed. I return this feeling to the earth to be neutralized, you know, but take proactive action.
You're flowing right now, but I just wanted to ground us in some common language. So what you're doing right now with the think alouds, those are those mantras, or are those like, should these be things that we are journaling, or like what is, or is it
These are
positive
things,
talk?
thank you. These are things we should be journaling. This is positive self-talk. Some of these could be mantras, but these are things that we need to be journaling out.
Yeah.
Think about how much stuff is stored in. So right now, the best thing is to get it out.
Mm.
And by getting it out, and I love you right now too, don't be attached. Don't even try to figure out the word or try to identify what class or group that these things even belong in. You know? I'm just saying.
I'm laughing because that's my jam. But what is it?
But right now, we just need to get it out.
Yeah.
And not be like, okay, cool, then this is an affirmation. Okay, cool, this is a mantra. No, right now, this is just a release.
Mm. Yeah.
You know? And I say that too because even the need to know, even the need to overcompensate, those are identifiers of an imbalanced emotional body. And because, again, notice a lot of Black and brown people are triggered in this moment because we've always been forced to work or think for ourselves or think ahead of time, so therefore ourselves is not killed by somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That we're even good enough, you know? So right now we're unwashing all of the conditions because for a lot of us, we have not been able to be still in 500, 600, 700 years.
Right.
So there's no pressure in trying to figure out what these things belong to. Your only thing is to figure out, is this my emotion? To be the awareness behind your thoughts, to be the awareness behind your actions, to be the awareness behind your words. And by being the awareness, you're going to know, does this belong to me?
Mm.
Do I even want this anymore? Is this just a habit that I'm okay with breaking? Where did this habit come in the first place? Oh my goodness, it was in 8th grade. You know, when I made a joke, but people didn't find it funny. So I realized that I had to change who I was to begin to fit the mold for everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, this is the time to clip some chains. You know, but not to try to figure out what type of guru you becoming because you're taking on all these other things, you know? Nah. I've also been recommending people do scream therapy. Scream. Breathe in again, scream. Breathe in again, scream.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is not the time for cute work.
Release.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There is no destination to make. There's only more of yourself to be. There's only more of yourself to fulfill. You know? So we don't got to think about the other stuff. Because again, we have enough labels over our head that we didn't even choose in the first place. Again, I'm still trying to figure out if I'm really Black or not. I just I find out I'm Black when I'm in a certain person's face. They be like, yeah, you're Black and you're a man. Oh shit, I am?
Right.
Which is scary because people fear Black and they fear men. Mm-hmm. You know, so this is the label that's been given onto me. And now I got to take on all the isms that come with it. But what if I say, fuck it right now?
Mm.
You know, if you also find yourself struggling with your throat chakra, F-U-C-K is one of the highest vibrational words to open your throat chakra.
Mm.
So maybe you need to scream fucks. Maybe you've been telling people that you don't give a fuck, you collected too many, and now you need to spend time giving those fucks away. So where can I go today to give some fucks away?
Where can I go today to give some? You know what? I like that. Where can I go? That's going to be my journal prompt. Where can I go today to give some fucks away? Something that you touched on, and again, just making sure that like people are all on the same page. You talked about chakras, and you specifically referenced the throat chakra. So, what are our chakras? And then, what is our throat chakra specifically? Like, what is that influence?
Thank you. Yes. So our chakras are energy centers throughout our body. So just different points within our body that energy moves in and moves out. We have 8 chakras that we talk about in the human body, but there's even more as you begin to learn more. The first is your root chakra, which sits right at your tailbone.
Okay.
Your roots deal with fear. So if you're dealing with fear right now, that deals with your root chakra. The next chakra is your sacral chakra, which deals with your sexual energy and your creative form, your creative energy. So your sexual energy and your creative energy are one and the same. That's why it's important that we're actually using our creative energy the right way and not just keeping on everybody every time we feel the surge of creativity coming through. Right. The next is your solar plex, which is your willpower. Do you have the will to even still be alive right now? You know, do you have the confidence, to still be there right now? The next is your heart. How are you loving? How are you loving yourself? The next is your throat. What are you communicating? The throat chakra is very important too, because it talks about how well you're able to communicate to yourself and also to others. And if you're not communicating to yourself in a healthy way, then you're also not able to communicate to others in a healthy way. You're not able to articulate your needs. You're not even able to articulate that you're scared right now. You're just choking and suffocating alone. Next would be your third eye, your intuition, your sight, and then next would be your crown chakra. So yeah, it's just, these are just different tools. Right. Some people gravitate towards these tools. Some people might not need to gravitate towards these tools, but your throat chakra essentially deals with your ability to communicate the truth to yourself. Your ability to communicate to yourself in love. If there was a person spying on you right now, would they arrest you and put you into a domestic violence center because they heard how abusive you are to your own daggone self? Yeah. So beginning to clear those things up. And the reason why this bogs down is because we're not honest with the things that we care about or what concerns us. We hold our voice. Come on, Black and brown people. Like, some of these things are generational blocked. Right. You might have heard your blocked throat chakra from your mama, who never could speak up towards your father, who could never speak up towards, all these things. Mm-hmm. But it's okay with sitting in the pulpit, believing in things, but never speaking out when those things are contradiction, or when someone else is a victim of the same belief system that they're supposed to be loving. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these things, is not about us, but about things that we have inherited that is important for us to release. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this has been, like I said, like I was just expecting a great conversation, and like what I ended up getting was like the conversational form of soul food. So I truly appreciate you taking your time out to join me today. Anyone watching this can catch this on Instagram TV and YouTube. I'm at Cult Classic on all platforms, CultClassic.
And I can be found too on all social media platforms. Just type in the Madison House, and I should pop up. The Madison House DC on Instagram, Facebook, and all those things. Yeah, I'm around. never be afraid to reach out. When this thing is over with, me and my hugs are gonna be back in full effect. So don't see me, want to touch me, but be scared and blocking your own self from this good love. But I'm just here to remind you of who you are. I am no different than you. I just have tools that I'm not afraid to use, not afraid to share. Yeah.
Thank you.